The R2 legislation was created together with many other pieces of legislation that were actually supposed to link together to create a new situation in road traffic legislation. And R2 is not so much decriminalizing road traffic legislation, it's creating a parallel system. The criminal procedure system remains, and the criminal procedure system will always be there for your serious offences like drunken driving, reckless driving, excessive overloading, excessive speeding. The idea was that any offence that you commit where you can get a fine, that would be dealt with in a system outside of the court system.
The number of traffic officers that we have in the country can never be enough to be on every little corner, every street, every highway, and so on. And therefore we know that we also have a challenge that the 24/7 system is not implemented across the board. We've got areas where traffic officers can only work until 10, and we know that that is the time when many misconducts are happening on the road and many carnages are happening on the road. We may have a lot of people that are getting away with delinquent behavior on the road because we don't have sufficient personnel. But I want to emphasize, before Tim encourages you to remove me, that we welcome the implementation of R2 nationally, because as the National Traffic Police, we are not able to issue infringement notices in other areas of the country. So implementing R2 will actually assist us to be able to issue everywhere we are. But having said that, there are challenges that we need to look at as a collective, as various stakeholders. How do we deal with issues of people that are from other countries, foreign nationals? How do we deal with people with no addresses? I'm from Shekoville and whatever, and then when you look for that address, you can't find it. How do we deal with people that don't have a South African ID number? How do we deal with cloned licenses? How do we deal with all those things? Because there are other people that may find themselves in trouble only to find that their details have been cloned. So there is a lot of challenges that we still need to look into, not only as the law enforcement fraternity, but as a collective of the stakeholders that are here.
From the get-go, I've got to be honest, as the AA, I can't say anything overly bad. We've been calling for a system like this since the 1960s. So for us, it's been a very important project where we are, in principle, behind the entire thing. That said, there are things that need to be addressed and taken into account. And I think, first of all, we've got to ask ourselves, if you use the roads, do we agree behavioural change is important? Well, I put $10 down and says anybody who drove here today was either inconvenienced or saw something that made them just go, wow, I cannot believe I just watched that. And I'm not talking about a subset of vehicles or types of vehicles. I'm talking about your average motorist who suddenly decided that this queue was far too long and it's much easier to zoom down the other lane and cut across. Chances are everyone here today saw something along those lines just on their way in today. Behavioural change, no question. We need it and we need it now.
If we think of our criminal court system today, it's actually relying on people not going to court. In any traffic court in South Africa today, you will see that there are about 400 or 500 traffic cases that have been summoned for a specific day. And if all the people pitch up on that day, we will have a huge mess. Our current criminal procedure system relies on the fact that many of the people in the country are not law-abiding and they are not going to court. That was the reason why R2 was created 15 years ago. The need was already there at that time. We had a no-consequence situation where lots of people were charged, but because of the fact that our courts do not have the capacity to deal with these cases, nothing happened to the people. Many of the cases were struck off court rolls. It happens on a daily basis even today. People receive tickets on their windscreens, or they get tickets through the mail, but because they have not received received it, or because there's no proof that they received it, they just ignore it, and eventually you find that many of the traffic departments in the country sit with literally millions of traffic fines which are not finalized. And that has created the situation that we have today. There's no consequences. People do things wrong, and there's no consequences because our court system cannot adapt to that. You've all had a look at the Oscar Pistorius trial. You see, that is the kind of intensive court situation we have if somebody goes on trial for anything. Whether it's a traffic fine or whether it's a murder trial.
You may or may not be aware that the Public Protector published a report on the 19th of December 2014 finding the JMPD to have acted unlawfully and engaged in maladministration by not complying with Section 30, subsection 1 of the ARTA Act, which clearly states that any infringement notice or any document to be required to be served in terms of this Act must be served on the infringer either personally or by means of registered mail. Now, the JMPD decided to send it out via ordinary mail and said they don't have to comply with Section 30, subsection 1. The Public Protector found that they did have to. And in April this year, the JMPD cancelled what they reported as being around 1.5 billion rand worth of road traffic fines issued under the ARTA Act that had not been paid, which were unlawful, because they had not complied with provisions of the Act. Now, just as a digression, and I'm not going to talk for too long, I'm a smoker, and I have boys. And if I had turned around to my boys and say, "Don't you dare smoke," they would have looked at me and said, "Who are you to tell me not to smoke?" When we turn around and tell people about their responsibilities under particular legislation, let's please not do it on the basis of do as I say, not as I do.
Indeed, we recognize the challenges that have been experienced through implementation, and this is one of the big issues that give credence to the strategic decision that's been taken to first implement the ARTA on the pilot phase in order to afford us the opportunity of assessing the impact that that implementation would have on the systems, on the processes, on the legislative issues, and have a mechanism of implementing the necessary interventions to address any of the deficiencies that have been identified. It is documented that the RTIA had also made input into the issues that have been considered by the Public Protector. And we had recognized that, and we had cooperated throughout the whole process. I was the first one, in fact, that went on record in warning Johannesburg that they were not complying with the provisions of the Act, Section 30, as Howard had indicated there. We recognize the challenges that we had experienced, and we had always ensured that municipalities and the issuing authorities can place more reliance on effective interactive law enforcement, so that there should be a very good balance. We must not have law enforcement skewed towards electronic detection. That is more focused on speed detection that ultimately will be able to generate the related revenue, as some of the members of the public panel had already indicated. If you place too much reliance on those, for example, you will not be able to see if a particular driver is driving under the influence of alcohol. You will not be able to detect that a certain type of vehicle is completely unroadworthy. The only thing that you would then be able to realize is the fact that this vehicle was speeding and went over the demarcated speeding zone at that particular time. We have come in and recognized that, yes, there are problems related to the service of documents. For us to engage with the process and serve the subsequent documents, such as courtesy letters and enforcement orders, we have to rely on the first steps that can be proven that service had occurred. Indeed, the greater than 1,000% increase that Mr. Dembowski had recognized in the issuing of enforcement orders vis-a-vis the 2013 period and the 2014-15 period gives credence onto that, because we have made a decision that we will not issue any subsequent documents in the absence of confirmation that the first document has been served. Otherwise, we are merely going to be engaging in fruitless expenditure, knowing that the intended purposes of those documents would not be achieved.